The time has come to conquer our last remaining frontiers and lead the resistance to victory on all fronts.
Hey, I'm Scott Butterworth here at E3 2016 with Miguel Concepcion. We're here to talk to you about some of the racing games here on display, primarily Forza Horizon 3 and Gran Turismo Sport, kind of the two biggest racing games here at the show. Miguel, I know that you had a chance to play Horizon just a couple days ago, right?
Mm-hmm. I had played Forza Horizon 3 over at a showcase that Xbox was hosting, and it was this 4-part demo that involved just getting a feel for all the vehicles, all the different landscapes because of the Australian setting. The setting itself was a nice change over the European Riviera that I loved in Forza Horizon 2, but at the same time I do understand why Playground Games would want a nice change of scenery for the sequel.
Yeah, it definitely opens up a lot of new opportunities, primarily for off-road racing. In fact, the demo we saw, I started out in a Lamborghini and was like kind of driving through some jungle, but then at one point this like trophy truck swings onto the road and suddenly I was controlling that and kind of driving on a dirt path, and then the demo ended. I was driving like a dune buggy kind of thing through this crazy course, chasing a helicopter, carrying a Jeep. So clearly Horizon still has kind of that like very fun approach to racing. It's kind of like a celebratory atmosphere, like music pulsing the whole time. It's definitely kind of more like the fun party version of Forza, more than, you know, like the previous Horizon games.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the two takeaways I had about the demo was playing 4x4s is not something you really associate with Forza Horizon, so it's going to prove to be a really great challenge for both the players and for Playground Games to actually make it challenging but also fair. And the absurdity of, you know, chasing this helitransport that's dropping this Jeep like 50 yards from the finish line, you know, it does speak to the absurdity of like Forza Horizon, especially when you think about those plane chases in Forza Horizon 2.
Yeah, so it's not always super serious, but it is a really pretty game, and it did seem to control pretty well. Gran Turismo, on the other hand, I actually had a chance to play that. That is a very serious game. That is absolutely, like, the more I see of the game, the more it's clear that, like the franchise in general, it's really for people who like follow car blogs or could name every single driver in F1. Like, it is for motorsports fans. It is like still just painstakingly realistic, so much attention to details. It's just every car is painstakingly modeled, and everything about the game is very much committed to authenticity.
So it does really feel like an official mainline Gran Turismo game, even if it's not a numbered release.
Yeah, you know, I actually got a chance to talk to Kazunori Yamauchi, who is sort of like the longtime leader of the franchise, and he was telling me that in his mind, there is enough game there that it could have been Gran Turismo 7. They just decided to name it something a little different because they think of it as almost kind of like a fresh start for the franchise. It's kind of breaking new ground because it's focused more on online competition. But in a way, according to him, it's also returning to the series' roots of wanting to invite people into motorsports, try to be maybe just slightly more accessible, even if it is still very much a simulation game, trying to just draw people in and let anybody who's interested in racing, you know, have a good time and just give them a reason to come and play a motorsports game.
It does speak to mind, speaking about accessibility, that's sort of been what the mantra of Forza as a franchise has been. So, you know, it's nice to know that, you know, Gran Turismo Sport is going to have, you know, they're going to make some attempts at making it just that much more accessible.
They have a couple mechanics. They have like a brake assist and a drive assist, which seem to help at least a little bit. But according to Yamauchi, they're also going to have like tutorials and licensed tracks and stuff like that to help players kind of get eased into the experience a little bit, which is definitely good because those games are pretty demanding. I mean, you can't just like hold down the accelerator and expect to win. Like, you really have to be careful and pick your passes and, you know the lines of the tracks and everything. Like, it's you know, a very, like I said, very committed to authenticity.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a nice foil for the openness of Forza Horizon 3, and I mean, I definitely see, you know, the benefits of both.
Yeah, even though they are sort of the two biggest games, they are extremely different. I mean, Forza being open world, being co-op, being kind of this party game. Gran Turismo being very serious and a much more traditional structure of, you know, individual events and more focused on online competition and maybe even having some esports ambitions. So it'll be really interesting to see how these two actually, you know, work out when they release. I believe they're both coming out later this year. So just stay tuned to GameSpot.com. We're gonna have way more on both of these games and more from E3 2016.